If your vehicle has a hard start, rough idle, or lack of power, this could stem from something as basic as your air intake system. Whether something's dirty, loose, or even damaged. If you need any parts, just go ahead and order them from us at 1aauto.com. Now, combustion engines are going to need to at least have these three things to run properly: air, fuel, and spark. If you have an issue with any of these, you're going to find that you have a running condition. Now, as far as the air mixture on this is concerned, one of the first things that you always want to check is your air filter. If your air filter is dirty to the point it's clogged, obviously your engine can't breathe very well. It's going to be drawing a lot more fuel into the engine, which is going to get burnt up, and that's going to cause black smoke, a running condition, and more than likely a check engine light, if it even runs at all. The next thing that I always check would be the mass airflow sensor. The mass airflow sensor is going to be in line between the air filter and your throttle body leading to the engine there. Now, the mass airflow sensor is responsible for measuring the amount of air getting drawn into the engine. It has a quick calculation and it sends it over to the computer. The computer says, okay, I've got this much air coming in, I need to add this much fuel for the proper combination for runnability issues. So if the mass airflow sensor looks like it's dirty, I always like to go ahead and replace that. It's common for it to be dirty, especially if you're the type of person that doesn't keep up on your maintenance and replace the air filter as needed. Now, moving along from talking about that mass airflow sensor, we're also going to talk about the air inlet tube that leads between the air filter housing and your throttle body. It's just as important. Something to think about from here on, past that mass airflow sensor. If you have any type of vacuum leak or leak at all, you're going to have a running condition. So just pay attention to everything. Now, on this particular air inlet tube, obviously it connects to my air filter housing. As I make my way down towards the throttle body, I can see that I also have a breather hose which leads up to my valve cover. If I have a leak in this area, once again, we're going to have a running condition. It's very common to have loose hoses. If they're not making good contact and air can seep by, you're going to find that you have that running condition, possibly even a check engine light. Something as simple as a loose clamp can cause this issue. Just go ahead and replace the clamp if that's the case. Obviously, you want to give it a squeeze, make sure it's not broken or damaged in any way. Just go ahead and press that on there. I'm going to replace the clamp. For now, that looks good. We'll continue on. Typically on these air inlet tubes, you may find that you have a flexible area. That's due to the fact that the engine is going to shift around a little bit as you're shifting through the gears or as you're accelerating or decelerating. It's also an area that can go bad or can get damaged in some way, especially if this is an older vehicle like this one right here. Now on this one, as I move it around, wow. I've seen this so many times at this point that it's almost the first place that I look, to be honest with you. It's a flexible area, it's going to go bad eventually. Now looking at this, I can tell that I have a giant hole leading into where my throttle body is. That means that air is getting drawn in from the engine, more than likely through here, and not necessarily getting drawn past my mass airflow sensor, which isn't going to be able to meter that air, and it's definitely not going through the air filter. If it's not going through the air filter, what kind of air is getting into the engine? Let's just go ahead and get that air inlet tube out of the way. Obviously, we know on this particular vehicle it is an issue, but I want to continue on. Now, behind that, or the next thing towards the engine, is the throttle body, and I've mentioned this a couple times at this point. I just removed the air inlet tube so you can have a quick peek inside of this area. Now, this is where we can see our butterfly valve. The computer of the vehicle is going to open and close this with a small motor. It's essentially going to allow more or less air into the engine to mix with that fuel. Now, if this valve was dirty and stuck in any way, it's going to cause an issue where you have a runnability problem. So you need to pay attention to it. Now, looking at this, I can see some dark areas, but typically the outer edge here isn't the spot that's going to be the dirtiest. Now, if you were to remove this throttle body and have a look along the back side of that valve, typically you're going to find a whole bunch of black carbon buildup. And this is what can cause the issue with that valve and cause this runnability issue. So don't just look at this outer edge, you have to look along the other side as well, especially if you did find that you had an issue with the air inlet tube, the mass airflow sensor, or even that air filter. Now, another thing that you want to pay attention to on vehicles is your air intake manifold. The air inlet is going to lead all the way over to this, and this is what's attached to the engine. Of course, there has to be gaskets in between the air intake manifold and the engine itself. Otherwise, you're going to have a vacuum leak. Speaking of vacuum leaks, these manifolds typically will have other hoses leading to them. Go ahead and check those just like the other hoses that I already mentioned before. Make sure they're secured and they're not cracked or damaged in any way. If they are, you're going to want to make sure you service that. Now, after a quick diagnosis, I know exactly what this vehicle needs as far as my application. We found that we had an issue with the air inlet tube. We can see that large gaping hole. We have dirty unmetered air making its way into the engine, and we can't have that. We ordered a brand new part from 1AAuto.com. I'm going to install this real quick, then we'll go ahead and start up the vehicle and make sure it functions as it should. Okay, I've got this installed. Let's just double check to make sure everything's secured, and I'm going to start the car. Sounds good. Perfect.